Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about taxation. Let's talk about tax policy, and taxation is theft. So there's an argument going on about the tax reform plan from Trump's first term here. And the idea is that Trump cut taxes for the rich, put the burden on the middle class, and then he cut taxes on corporations and put the burden on the American taxpayer. And that's not really what the numbers show. The numbers from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, do not show that. So before we get into exactly what happened and exactly why this stuff isn't true, let's talk about tax policy. And when I say tax policy, let's talk about the justification for taxes. Because you can't have a policy without some sort of presuppositions, pre-existing thing, right? Taxes are, or should be, a way to invest in capital projects that are too big for the individual. Things that are generally socially agreed on. Okay, this is one of those areas where you have to be a little specific, because generally socially agreed on is the important aspect of this. Okay, if the majority of people or a significant plurality of people think that roads should not be built under any circumstances, then maybe your tax policy shouldn't be about roads. You know, maybe your infrastructure project should not include electrical distribution if a significant number of people don't want public utilities. Why would this be? I don't know, but it's possible. So your taxes should be a way to invest in social projects, capital projects that are too big for the individual. And when I say social, I mean societal, okay? Civilizational. Where does welfare come into this? Well, that's a really good question. We'll get to that later sometime. There's the libertarian argument, and I'm not a anti-tax libertarian, okay? But, there's the question, but without government, who will make my roads? More to the point, without taxation, who will build the roads? And the answer is no one. And that answer is actually demonstrable, provable through history. There's a guy named Alexis de Tocqueville. He wrote a book that's really crucial to anyone's study of early American history, U.S. history, and it's called Democracy in America. Oh, and one of the things he talks about in his journeys in America is how fucked up the roads are. They're just completely horrible. They're like literally an active hindrance to commerce, security, and the growth of the nation. And he's very clear on this. And this is because there is no program to fund public infrastructure at the time. And you have to fund it, okay? Yes, you can do charitable donations, okay, whatever. You can do every road is privately owned toll road, and there is no such thing as public property. And there's really big issues with that. And the fact is, it doesn't work, okay? It didn't work. We've tried that. It didn't work. And I'm not saying it's impossible to come up with a scheme that avoids taxation. Right now, the best thing we've figured out is use taxation done right, we'll get to that, for the purpose of public infrastructure. That's an investment, okay? That's literally an investment. There's this thing about Obama said you didn't build that. And Obama was absolutely wrong, okay, to deny people's input. But he wasn't exactly wrong to say that you didn't build that without help. There is an infrastructure. There is an infrastructure. That doesn't mean that you should be punished for your success. Okay, and that's the part of tax policy that we really have to dig into here. Okay, and just roads are one of those things which are basic and obvious capital investment beyond the reach of the individual. That I'm okay with. There's a reason for taxes to build roads. I can accept that. So how much taxes do we need? Well, that's an interesting topic, and I don't know if you can get much in the way of absolute factual objective truth for an answer. I mean, let's start with the current social model. The social justice model. We need a cradle-to-grave safety net. I don't know how it's a safety net when it's cradle-to-grave, but it's described as a safety net. Everyone is guaranteed a lifetime of free college, free healthcare, free housing, free UBI, and a free middle-class life with extra special bonuses if they're in a protected minority class group. Okay. I'm not sure how this is still called a safety net, but whenever I do talk about the limits of a safety net, the end result is cradle to grave everything. So let's just run with it. How do you pay for this utopia? Taxes. Whose taxes? The people who can't just sit around and live off their guaranteed government mandate middle class income are going to work or create or do something. How much do they have to pay to ensure that everyone else gets a middle-class income? And if these people are actually successful and increase their standard of living, then the guaranteed welfare has to go up. Otherwise, it's unfair. We need more equity. And that's not monetary equity. Okay, so what's the fair share that you get to take of someone else's success or someone else's effort? What is that fair share? Enough to make you equal to them. That is the basic answer. You can't do that unless 90% of your population is working. Like you literally, you can't give 60, 70, 80% of the people a middle class income based off of the efforts of 30% or 10%. You can't do it. And fair share taxation actually wants that to be done with 1%. Okay. So, what's the fair share you get to take of someone else's work or success? Is it enough to pay for roads? Or enough to pay for a life of video game tournaments for every incel in every basement? Fair share. So let's say we don't punitively tax individuals because that wouldn't be fair. Okay. It's the evil businesses and corporations. They are profiting. So they need to pay their fair share. And what's that fair share? Profits come from work and production. I mean, look, realistically, you can claim that there's no one in an office who ever actually does any work. And I can tell you that most people on the factory floor don't actually know dick about how to manage the budget for payroll. So if you don't have those people in the office, you're not going to get paid. Let alone planning for a 6-quarter, 8-quarter project, like a development of a car or something. Even a piece of software. There's no one in management who ever does anything useful is a ridiculous argument. So companies in general make money from some sort of work, effort, or production. The few exceptions that there are not enough to be the basis of your national economic, tax, or social policy. So we're going to run with the, in general, make money from some sort of work, effort, or production. But if you remove the ability to get any benefit from doing that work, effort, or production, they're not going to go and do it. They're not going to be able to survive in business. The businesses go away. Under a free trade arrangement, they go to where they can survive, some other country. And your social safety net goes away. There's only so many rich people you can rape. Under a more restrictive regime, and you can pick any form of authoritarian socialism you like. Left-based, right-based, Nazis, fascists, Maoists, Pol Pot, the Zimbabwe plan, Stalin. I don't care which one you pick. All right? You end up with slavery. Someone has to work, or the safety net fails to feed people. There's no incentive left to work because any success is going to be taxed to the point where you get nothing except total equality with people who don't work. Do you think the safety net is ever going to stop growing? We'll talk about that with the hunger video. So this is a basic problem with fair share taxation. It's always someone else who deserves to pay. Anytime blame, morality, selfishness arguments are a part of your tax policy, you can be guaranteed that the tax policy is inherently unjust and based on punishing others, on taking away, which is a negative, rather than growing, which is a positive, or universal societal benefit, which is also a positive. Even when you say, oh, we have to feed the poor kids in school, you're not doing a universal benefit. You are literally saying these people have to have a negative. This is our justification for the negative, but the children. If your basic arguments include any form of they don't deserve it, they didn't earn it, they have too much, or they don't pay their fair share, or X number of riches, billionaires or whatever, should not exist, then your policy is punitive, negative, and it's unworkable. Okay? On a related note, you cannot punitively tax people into social responsibility. Look at Roman history. Look at how it actually worked when it functioned. That'll have to be another video because this one's getting pretty long. All right. It never ends. Okay, we create emergencies. There's always another need. The best you can do for a tax rate, because you can't base it on social justice, because it's a never ending. It never gets full. There's never enough. Okay? Look at the expectations on healthcare go up constantly. The expectations on college, it's no longer affordable college. It's guaranteed free college for life. Okay? Okay, right now it's guaranteed community college for 2 years. But it's not going to stop there either. It already hasn't stopped there. Guaranteed college for life is already on the table. Ask AOC. You can't base your taxes on social justice. You can't base them on punitive, taking away. So what do? The best you can do is look at a tax rate that is survivable, doesn't restrict growth or punish success, maximizes revenue and economic growth. That's a balancing act, okay? And that's where we get back into Trump. But once you've got that tax policy that maximizes revenue and growth, then you can decide what the government gets to do with the money. First, you have to have the money. First, you have to figure out how to survivably get the money. Not say, oh, it's not enough, we have to punish someone. So, it's Trump. The Republicans did a tax thing, over the last couple of years, Trump's first term. And one was a tax cut. It was an income tax, personal income tax cut. And even the New York Times has admitted that the majority of Americans in all, and I mean all tax brackets, from the very bottom up, the majority of Americans paid less in income taxes as a percentage of their income. You paid less pennies per dollar earned. Majority of Americans across the board, poor to rich, all the way across the board. The exceptions are mostly actually at the top. The corporate tax rate dropped from what people call 35% to 21%. Of course, that 35% was 39% for a middle company. Like right in the middle of the graph, there's a sudden jump to 39%. It's 15% at the very low end. It's 35% at the higher middle end. And then the very highest end, it's 38% again. Like, it's really weird, okay? What Trump did was a flat tax, 21%, bottom to top, all the way across the board. Glorious, glorious move. A little bit high still, but glorious. Here's what happened, okay? Total tax revenue went up. Corporate taxes corporate tax went down about 8%, okay? Much less than the percentage that is perceived of the tax rate drop. You go from 35 to 21%, that drops up by a third, but you didn't drop the revenue by more than a couple percentage points, like 8%, a little bit less. So, well, you got more revenue from income taxes and payroll taxes. Personal income taxes, not corporate. But the tax rate for individuals went down. So how did you end up with more money? Isn't that a burden on the taxpayer? No. It's because people made more money. It's because more people had jobs. Those jobs paid better. And with a lower percentage of income tax, you still ended up with more revenue. It's like magic. It's like if you tax 10% of $100, you get less money than if you tax 5% of $1,000. Oh my God, math! How horrible. So what happened with this Republican tax plan is that basically economics works, math works, and it worked. It wasn't a no one pays taxes. It wasn't a the rich don't pay taxes and everyone else pays the burden. It was everyone makes more money and the government gets more money. Ta-da! If the basis of your tax plan is trying to punish people, you're just gonna fail. There is no positive outcome. Take that, stick it in your hat, and stay sideways.